Welcome to Feel the Heat, a 5 Reasons Sports Network Miami Heat podcast. Hosted by Allana Tachauer and Michael Christian. This is your one-stop listen for all things Miami Heat culture, past, present, and future, on and off the court.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 13 of Feel the Heat. Lucky number 13. Actually, Michael, how do you feel about the number 13?
I don't care. When I think of the number 13, I think of the Tower of Terror and I think of a good time. So the number 13 doesn't really mean anything to me.
You don't think of Bam Adebayo right away?
No, I don't. Because he's not like jumped into that right away. Right. And honestly, because you set it up with unlucky 13, I immediately went to like negative things.
No,
when
I
think
said
of negative
13.
things. I don't think of Bam.
I said lucky number 13. My grandmother was born on Friday the 13th, in fact. So 13 doesn't scare me. I actually like the number.
That explains the foresight she had.
All right. Alan is going to come after you.
No, it makes sense.
Chris
Friday the
Middleton.
13th. No. Friday the 13th is a very mystical day, right? So this makes sense.
So now you believe what I was saying before.
I believe that you believe what you were saying before.
So you believe what I was saying before.
You know what? Maybe we should move on to the next topic, and that way I can show Philly Heat who actually runs this show.
Philly and Twisted, for that matter. I think y'all know what's up. Anyway, I was trying to transition us into what the heck happened between the Bucks and the Hawks. Chris Middleton just came alive and decided that he's the man now, just to spite you, I think.
I'm gonna go with he listened to our last pod, probably like Saturday night. Got really fired up. Said I really got to prove that Michael guy wrong. Because honestly, what NBA player doesn't listen to Feel the Heat to kind of use it as like fuel? You know, which okay,
motivation.
I will say, if any player ever referenced our pod being like, I wanted to do well because on that podcast they said I sucked, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I think that's awesome.
I'm not fine with it.
No?
The Hawks are very, very close to being kicked out. And now that Trae Young's ankle/foot is all messed up. He has a bone bruise, supposedly questionable for game 4. I'm going to go ahead and assume he's going to play because it's kind of too important for him not to. But that's still up in the air.
I think he'll play. Chris Middleton played great. Look, Chris Middleton has this stupid automatic mid-range shot most of the time that just irks me because I don't like him as a player. Just because I don't like a player doesn't mean I can't recognize that they're good at basketball. I think Chris Middleton is good at basketball. Do I think he's max contract good? Absolutely not. I don't think Chris Middleton is really the difference between the Hawks winning and losing this series, though. I don't know if we went over predictions. If we did, I definitely picked Bucks.
You did pick the Bucks, and I picked the Hawks.
I mean, the Bucks are just a better team than the Hawks. I mean,
do you really not think he's the difference maker, though? Because at this point, I feel like some people are calling him the Robin to Giannis's Batman.
I mean, the Robin kind of gets passed around, though, because one game it's Middleton, another game it can be Giroux. Right? And another game, true. If he wants to step up, and he has, and it's ridiculous, Brook Lopez can give you a good 25-point night if he wants to as well. I don't think the Robin is necessarily stuck. I think if anyone should be the Robin, it's Middleton because of the contract and the history they have together. But it kind of switches around. The Bucks are just a better team, honestly. They're just a better team. The Hawks, when the threes aren't falling, it's just no good. It's just not. And I don't see how they stop them enough times in this series to win. And this is what I like about the playoffs is the playoffs doesn't let you be gimmicky. The playoffs doesn't let you come out with, hey, I've got this one trick pony and I'm going to do it till it dies. No, because they will figure you out pretty soon. If anyone didn't, it would be Mike Budenholzer, and he's a little bit slower on the uptake than most other coaches. But the Bucks are keeping it together. I honestly think the Bucks are going to make it to the finals, and that bothers me because I don't want to see them win after all the trash. We talked about them earlier, but it is what it is. I think they're the better team, and Trae coming back is necessary for the Hawks to have any chance. But even if he does come back, I still don't think they win.
I mean, I agree with you that the Bucks are the better team. I still don't want them to win. I think what's frustrating to me is that it was an official. Like, out of all people to mess Trae Young up, it had to be an official. It couldn't just be another player. Not that it would have made it better or worse, I guess, but I don't know. It just irks me. I'm sure, if he does come back, he's not going to be the same player. He's going to come back because he's going to push himself. He was obviously very uncomfortable even when he returned in the last game. So, I mean, it sucks that this had to happen to him. I don't think that without him, they will win another game. So if they have any chance at even one more victory, he's going to have to come back. But I just don't want to see the Bucks in the finals at all.
I mean, I don't want to see the Bucks in the finals either, but I mean, between the ref causing Trey's injury and the fact that Giannis is able to take a full minute before he shoots a free throw, Allana, are you saying there might be a bit of a conspiracy here?
NBA
several
rigged? Members of NBA Twitter who have continuously night after night been talking about that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. No. I don't believe in that. I definitely think that certain players get calls that other players don't. I think certain referees like to call certain things, not necessarily based on team or player, but just based on the actual call itself. They're a little bit more trigger happy with that whistle. But I don't know if I really care that much about Giannis's free throws. I know people are really harping on it, but it's been this way for a while. I am so sick of listening to Reggie Miller talk about the same thing every telecast, and I know I'm already biased against him, but if I have to hear him talk one more time and explain the whole countdown situation, like, Reggie, we get it.
I agree with most people that are upset about it, though, just because it's like I understand, because we were there, right? As in Heat fans, we were there. We were stuck watching this guy take forever at a free throw line, and then they gave him his like little warm up pumps before he even got the ball. It's just annoying, especially when you're losing. So
it is annoying, but at the same time, he's such a terrible free throw shooter that I just don't care. If he was making them every time and that was kind of his secret sauce, then maybe I'd be frustrated, but he's so terrible that let the man do whatever he wants. He's still not going to suit them.
But as a fan too, I want play to continue. I want the pace to be pretty good. And every time he goes to the line, you might as well give me a commercial break. Legitimately, when Giannis goes to the line, they should cut to commercials, come back, and maybe he'll have shot his second free throw. Maybe. I think that would save us all a lot of time, because I don't like when the game gets slowed down like that. It's just really boring. I want, okay, let's get back into the action, not 10 seconds of you doing the same motion over and over again and still missing, bro. Like, work on your free throws, homie.
That's what I'm trying to say, though. He's not making them, so I don't care. But speaking of pace and exciting basketball, the Miami Suns play game 5 tonight, and I am hyped. They're closing it out tonight. I'm calling it now. They're moving on to the finals.
Wow. You think the Suns are going to win the series when they're up 3-1? Bold. Like, you think tonight? That's crazy. It's out there.
Y'all can't see my face, but you can fill in the blank on the look I'm giving Michael currently. Yes, Michael, I do think they're going to close it out tonight. Can I just celebrate something? Michael's been in a spicy mood all day, so y'all are going to have some sass coming from him tonight.
Look, the Clippers were missing Kawhi from the start. And what's crazy is, as overmatched as they seemed at a lot of points in this series, the Clippers are still maybe 4 free throws away from being up 3-1 instead of down 3-1. Like, playoff P came back, and he came back with a vengeance this time.
I just want everyone out there to know that Michael is purposefully rooting for the Clippers because he doesn't want to be like everyone else and root for the Suns. I have this in writing. I don't want to hear any
that's fine.
rebuttals.
That's fine. I'll admit to it. Patrick Beverley is a dirty player. I understand that. There's a lot of reasons to dislike the Clippers. I think Ty Lue is a horrendous coach. I've said that a long time ago, and I've said that on this pod too. I was rooting for the Clippers, though, because everyone and their mom was going for the Suns, and everyone's like,
they're the likable team.
Yeah, but everyone's doing this thing now where it's like, oh, I've been behind the Suns forever. It's like, really though? Because I don't think you were. I think everybody was like, man, can't wait for Devin Booker to be on a different team so you can get out of that organization. On top of that, it's like the Suns have a certain air about them, a certain like arrogance a bit that doesn't feel completely earned to me. That's what I'll say. Look, Devin Booker.
I feel like they're the quirky kids on the block that
No.
everyone loves, regardless of who you're friends with in the crew. If you've even talked to them ever, it's like they're the people that you want to hang out with.
To me, I don't see them as quirky kids on the block. To me, I see them as the new kid that's here for the very first time and is like, yeah, this is where I belong. And I've always been here because I'm this good and this is my spot. And it's like, okay, like you just got here, like good for you. And look, I'm not taking anything away from them. They've been fantastic. I don't care what the season was. The Suns deserve to be here because they have played amazingly as a team. DeAndre Ayton, who I was not a big fan of, has vastly improved. Devin Booker has learned to do more with his game. Chris Paul has taken that team to new heights. Monty Williams, fantastic coach. I'm not taking any of that away from this, just personally. And it's not even Monty. Like, I like Monty Williams a lot, actually. Like, when I watch him on the sidelines and run the team and everything, I love that. There's just a bit of that arrogance that comes out on the court that I'm just like, okay.
I don't see that at all. That is the most wild take about this team I've heard so far. I want y'all to actually let us know if you agree, because I'm not even trying to clown Michael right now. I'm genuinely curious if everyone else feels that way. But I feel the same way.
I feel similarly about the Hawks. Like, I feel like the Hawks have that air a little bit as well.
I can see that, though, because Trey's got this kind of swagger about him that he, like, I can understand that about Trey.
And that's the thing. We call it like a swagger, which is fine. My issue, and I told you, I gave you this exact example. Maybe I said it last time. Trey yelling at John Collins, I don't get why he's doing that.
But see, I can back you on. I just don't see the Suns in that way. So now I'm really curious if I'm the only one that doesn't see it. So y'all better just at me, at Michael, just let us know what you think.
But again, everybody's a fan of the Suns right now. Like, everybody's backing the whole Suns situation. So to have anybody come out and say, oh yeah, the Suns are definitely like, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that thought the same thing about the Miami Heat last season in the bubble. I'm sure a lot of people thought that they were that tough team. And there were certain players that were arrogant. I will say it plainly. Tyler Hero was fairly arrogant in last year's playoffs.
But see, I like arrogance. That doesn't bother me. So if I feel like I wouldn't be shying away, I wouldn't be shying away from that take if I believed it. I just have never seen the Suns as that team. So now I'm just super curious. This is a fun take.
It's just a little bit to me. They just kind of give me that like, we deserve to be here. This is going to be a piece of cake. And they've come into this series. Look, I'm sorry. Let's be honest. The Clippers should not be in this series even as much as they are right now. Like, the fact that it's 4 free throws difference between a complete 2-game swing, a 4-game swing, I guess is what it would be. That's crazy to me. I don't think the Suns have been playing up to their potential. I think, and I said this before, I said without Kawhi, I just don't see it happening. But if Kawhi was there, I think the series looks completely different. And the Suns don't have that air about them that I'm currently seeing.
Let me ask you something while we're still on this topic. This is throwing Michael off guard because it was not on our rundown, but I saw a tweet earlier from Ariel, I believe it was, basically saying that Kyle Lowry can do for Bam what Chris Paul has done for DeAndre Ayton. What are your thoughts on this?
Man, you're going right at Ariel on this one, huh?
No, because I actually think it's interesting. I don't necessarily know how he meant it in terms of, if it was more leadership or like actually on the court. But I haven't really heard that comparison before. And I actually think that might be a valid way to look at it.
I think it could be similar, but because, okay, so if I had to like rank them, Chris Paul is ahead of Kyle Lowry by a decent amount. And I think the way Chris Paul elevates a team is more than what Kyle Lowry can do. Kyle Lowry's still really good at it. I just don't think he's Chris Paul. At the same time, I don't think DeAndre Ayton is Bam Adebayo. So I think Bam is better. So to get Bam up higher won't be that difficult, in my opinion, for Kyle Lowry if he were to join the Heat.
Balance out.
So yeah, I could see where it's similar. It's just, to me, that gap of where DeAndre Ayton was to where he is, I don't think Bam is going to take that big of a leap because of Kyle Lowry. He could take a huge leap like that for sure, but I don't think it would be so much because of Kyle Lowry. I think it would be a lot of other aspects probably. Kyle Lowry's a great player. I just don't think it's Chris Paul. So I kind of see it. I just don't think it's the same. What did you think?
It's a loose comparison. I just thought it was interesting because, again, I don't think anyone had ever said that before. And I do think there's something to be said about what Chris Paul has done for Ayton. But while we're on this topic, we're not going to talk about Kyle Lowry, but we are going to talk about Damian Lillard for a minute because, wow, was Heat Twitter up in arms yesterday. I was helping my best friend move So I was off my phone for easily 3 to 4 hours. And when I checked back in, it was like a bomb had gone off.
Well, it was because what? Chris Haynes tweeted, right? Was it Chris Haynes?
It was.
Yeah, he tweeted out. And what was it exactly? It was that Dame
More
wasn't
or less,
happy.
Yeah, that Dame wasn't happy about the coaching decision because, Billups was not on his coaching list to even interview. And what I find very interesting is that a certain podcast on our network was talking about that very recently in terms of Chris Haynes being a Dame guy. So it seems like that's a pretty reliable source. The question though is, can Miami and should Miami fans even be thinking about this?
And that's the thing. To me, it's a fun one to talk about because it's the off season, and admittedly, I think all of us can say our off season talk started way earlier than any of us would have wanted it to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Nobody wants to start talking 4 games into the playoffs. That sucks, right? It was terrible. We all had to start this really early. It is a fun thing to talk about. If Damian Lillard could become a member of the Miami Heat, I'm all for it. You and I both are all for it. You and I actually both had him as our number one in terms of these like kind of crazy trade targets. I think there's just a reason why we call them crazy trade targets. And it's not because Damian Lillard is completely unattainable. I do think there's a chance he leaves Portland. It's just to Miami specifically. I don't even know what it is that we would trade to get him, because it feels like it would have to be so expensive that what makes Miami enticing would partially be lost in one of the 2 superstars we have left.
See, and that's the thing. I think generally when superstars are kind of brought up in conversation, there's a twofold problem. It's one, would they even want to come to Miami? And then 2, what would it take to get there? I feel like Dame might want to come. I don't think that's that crazy of an idea at this point. I think, especially with the report that came out and the fact that, for example, he's going to play with Bam in the Olympics, that could form some chemistry there. So I don't think that him wanting to, come to Miami specifically is that far-fetched. But to your point, what's left for him to get him here? I am not going to pretend to be a specialist on kind of assets and cap space. That is not my thing, but from, doing a little bit of digging, it seems like it's going to take a lot. And it's definitely going to have to involve other teams like OKC, for example. Yeah, for the picks. So I don't know. And I think, to your point, it's fun to think about and it's exciting to kind of dream about the possibility. My problem with this kind of situation is that when things like this don't happen, I feel like Heat fans get so wound up that whatever trades and whatever, signings do actually take place, even if they're great, Heat fans then feel super disappointed. They act very let down and they almost go into, the next season really just down about the team. And I don't want that to happen again, because if everyone is counting on Dame, I would really take a step back and realize that that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, there was a lot about this past season that was tough to sit through, right? And tough to kind of swallow and just be like, okay, come on, let's get back into it. This season never felt like it was focused on this season, honestly, for the Miami Heat. It was all the way from the offseason talks of potential trades. And we had already heard everything about Giannis, and then we heard everything about Harden. And I'm not discrediting any of that. I'm sure all those talks were actually happening. But you went from talking about Giannis potentially joining the Heat, which would, that would absolutely put this team over the top. And you talk about Harden joining the Heat, okay, again, over the top. Talk about Bradley Beal, and it starts kind of dwindling and you start looking at other trade options, but you're always looking on the outside for what can happen. There was a lot of things going into that as well, right? I think the players were affected by it. I think we all saw that going up to the trade deadline and the way everything kind of shifted the moment the trade deadline passed. If you had told me from the offseason that the Heat would have traded for Victor Oladipo and they would have given up what they gave up, right? If they had done that at the start of the season, I would have been ecstatic. I would have been really happy about it. But because it came at such a late point, because it came after the talks of Giannis and Harden and all these other things, it felt like, okay. I guess it's fine. I love Victor Oladipo, but he's no Giannis or Harden, right? Well, he's no Bradley Beal.
Chasing the next best thing at this point. And I think that's just really problematic because, at the end of the day, the big 3 era was great. but we have to leave that behind. And I think this front office is best at kind of finding those diamonds in the rough. And I think instead of focusing on that at this point, all people want are those big names, some of which honestly I don't think would be good fits, but because they're headliners, everyone just gravitates towards them. So what I'm basically afraid of now is that, on the likelihood, which I don't think it's very likely that Dame comes, everyone's going to get all tied up in that narrative. And when it doesn't happen, regardless of what does end up happening this offseason, it's not going to be good enough.
And it's, because you mentioned, and I was thinking about it too for a second. I was like, yeah, did the big three kind of ruin us as Heat fans stuff? Honestly, I would say it kind of dates back further than that, though. I think that's always kind of been Riley's thing. Riley's never been the biggest fan of the draft. We all know this. Right. The only times he's taken draft picks, it feels like, is when it's a top 5 or 6 pick because, the lottery just broke out that way and there was a rough season. But going back to when they traded for Alonzo Mourning, and I'm going to credit, I know Greg Sylvander talked about this and there were probably others, but the Heat gave up Glenn Rice at the time. Glenn Rice actually went and became a good player, but Alonzo Mourning was Alonzo Mourning. Like, that's a trade you're going to take every single time. And Alonzo Mourning was a better player than Glenn Rice. Right. So it's always kind of looking for, what can we make out of nothing? What can we make out of these lower picks, these undrafted players, and then turn them into something greater, right? And 2010, I wouldn't even count because that was free agency, and that was all D Wade. Like Pat Riley, huge part of that too, for sure. But D Wade is really what made that happen, So you've got all these other trades that kind of happen, and we're always looking for that whale. We're always in the talks for those whales because we're giving up draft picks quickly. Like we'll give up draft picks in a heartbeat. And then you have this kind of weird point now where they went and drafted Bam, and everybody loves Bam. A lot of people are giving him crap right now, but I think at the end of the day, all Heat fans love Bam Adebayo because he very much fits Heat culture. They drafted Tyler Hero, who blew up onto the scene his first season, had a rough second season, but let's be honest, it was down by his standards. It was still a pretty decent season a lot of the time. So now it's this weird point of what should the Heat do? Should they try to continue to chase these whales and mortgage the future for right now? Or should they start looking at maybe scaling back and looking for that draft pick future? And I just don't think that's anything they're ever going to do with Pat, because that's just not his style.
It's especially not going to happen with Jimmy, because we're now on Jimmy's timeline and Jimmy does need to win now, which only furthers, Pat's and the rest of the front office's quest for that whale. And again, it's just, I think that this front office and the coaching staff, they're incredible for so many different reasons. And I hate the fact that a lot of their work gets overlooked just because fans kind of hype up whatever guy they want in the moment. I've been blunt about this too. I think a lot of the reason that people are so down on Tyler Hero this season are because of their own expectations. He didn't have a good season. By no means. I think he could and he should do better. But I think that if it weren't for kind of the pressure put on him and the pressure that Heat fans put of their own expectations on him, I don't think that they'd be feeling this way. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens. Another name, though, that's come up a lot is Sexton. And that would be for supposedly Tyler and Precious.
Yeah. You know what, though? Before I do want to get to the Sexton stuff, but before we get to that, before we move off the Dame stuff, I did want to ask this because it's been floated around a lot. I don't think it should happen. I'm curious your takes. Would you ever include Jimmy or Bam in a trade for Dame? And I know we've talked about this before, this is where I'm saying I would not include either just for this reason. I don't see how that makes us that much better, where it puts us over the top to championship. Dame is a great player. Losing Bam, I think it doesn't make so much sense for Dame to come here unless you've got this giant other third asset that you're trying to get. And even then, I have a soft spot for Bam. Like, that's my guy. And then losing Jimmy feels like you're losing so much of what you're currently building, what you're currently focusing on, that then it becomes kind of this strange switch on everybody that it doesn't make sense. I wouldn't ever include any of the two. And I think without including either of those two, there's like a 0.001% chance of Dame coming to Miami. I don't know what you think about that.
So for Dame specifically, I don't know if I'd move either two. I think we've talked about this in the past, whether it's on this pod or offline or both. I would move Bam in certain situations. And to be honest, I would probably move Jimmy in certain situations, but I think you would need all three of those specific guys along with, re-signing Duncan or whoever else you're getting for the supporting cast to move the needle. So to get Dame, no, I wouldn't give up either. And not because I have some, connection or wanting to hold on to them. I do, but I think it's more so to your point that I don't think it does much for us if we're getting rid of them just to get Dame. So I think for once we're on the same page, which kind of is scaring me.
And I think getting rid of those two also is kind of an admittance of the bubble was a fluke, or would be an admittance of that, right? Because you're discrediting that entire thing. I understand there was a lot of different things that broke out that season, but you're saying that's not going to happen again. And I understand other teams got better, but if you can't build upon Jimmy and Bam, who did lead your team to the finals, then I don't think you're building right. And that's not what I feel. I feel this team is going to make the right moves. I just want to see what they are. I'm ready for it now. I love watching basketball, but I love the Heat way too much to continue to sit here and watch them not play, not make moves. I want the moves now. But yeah, sorry, we were talking about Colin Sexton. Oh, heck no. Colin Sexton, meh. Like, I think he's a good player.
That's all, just shrug, meh.
I don't think he moves the needle that far on the team. I don't think he becomes this great piece.
For Tyler and Precious, if that were the deal. And I just want to shout out for a second. I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe that this kind of started with a report by Jeremy Woo. We went to the same high school. I do know Jeremy, so shout out to Jeremy Woo. I believe that's where it started. He writes for Sports Illustrated, so just wanted to plug him there. But I mean, I would be down if it's a Tyler and Precious package.
I don't think I would. I think I'm I think I'm gonna stick with Tyler on that one.
Okay.
Not because I think Tyler is a better player necessarily than Colin Sexton. I think you have more control with Tyler in terms of years because Colin Sexton was drafted earlier. You have to figure out something with Sexton's contract sooner rather than later. I'm not super convinced on him as a player because it's Cleveland. Stats are always going to be a little bit weird for me in Cleveland. I do think he's a good player. I'm not super ready to give up on Tyler on that kind of a deal. Not on that. And I know that Tyler's not going to get us a whale. I know Tyler's not going to get us Bradley Beal, but I still have faith that he can turn it around. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, this guy with a homer, he just likes Tyler. I just do think so. I've seen it. I think he can do it again. I just want to see what he does, at least early on this next season.
Let me ask you this, though. With the report that Tyler is 75% gone from Miami, does that change your decision a little bit more at all?
No, because even then, I still think the pricing on it, right? I still think for Sexton, I think that's a pretty low price. I think you could probably get more. Maybe free up one of your picks for him if you trade him to Oklahoma or Oklahoma City or something. Maybe do something with the Rockets, although that seemed weird. And I'm not really a fan of Eric Gordon or John Wall. I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying that Tyler's going to get us this big giant asset. I'm not as ready to give up on him. I still think he can be fine. I think it's weird that you saw one season with him and then you saw a second season, and in the second season immediately became, okay, let's sell on him now. Like, I don't think it's going to continue to keep going down on Tyler Hero. I think it is going to rebound. And then you could probably sell higher if they're so inclined to do that. I just still think he can be good. And honestly, too, I think a part of him really can and will buy into Heat culture. I'm not saying he hasn't necessarily, but it's been a little strange. But, I mean, you just saw him at the Surfside stuff recently. So that horrible tragedy that happened with that condo building, Tyler went out there. And I know that's not like the biggest deal, but I think it matters. I think it matters that they're there. I think it matters that he's showing face to try to do this stuff. And I think there was a reason why Jimmy liked him so much his first season. I'm just not totally out on Tyler, honestly.
I'm not necessarily out on him personally. I think that, again, a lot of people's disappointments are on them and not necessarily on him, even though he didn't have a great season. I'm just wondering if at this point, if his trade value goes down any lower, I don't want to get stuck in a situation where he's not performing and no one else wants him. I don't know if necessarily anyone would want him now coming off of that season either. So it's kind of a matter of trying to take that risk or thinking about taking that risk now versus what you might be left with later.
Sure. So you'd make this Collin Sexton trade for Tyler and Precious?
I think I would highly consider it.
Yeah, and that's fine. Listen, to anybody that would make that trade, that's fine. If Tyler Hero does get traded, which again, everybody's saying it probably will happen. Okay. I'm not saying I'm completely opposed to trading him. I just still think he can be a useful piece. I think he can be a good sixth man. And I don't think a sixth man scoring offense off the bench is super easy to find. But if they go and get Sexton, I think he more likely fits that role, especially because I don't think that's going to stop their pursuit for Kyle Lowry. So, I don't know. I wouldn't personally make that trade, but to those that would, good. That's fine. I just want to see this team improve, whichever way they got to do it.
The last name I have for you is Bagley.
You can start on that one.
I personally don't think I would make this move. I can understand why some people would look into him. But listen, I was against Depot for the same reasons. Injury-prone guys scare me, period. But they especially scare me when they have to slot into the Miami Heat's conditioning system that a lot of guys that are perfectly healthy struggle with at first. So to get a guy like that going at peak physical health when he's had injury problems, to me, it frightens me. I don't exactly know what kind of the talks were in terms of what it would take to get him. I think Iggy was involved at some point, but to me, I would take a pass.
Yeah, I'd probably pass on him too. Is Marvin Bagley really that big of a deal for this team? Probably not. Is Marvin Bagley going to be super incredibly cheap? Probably not either. Again, I go back and I make that Oladipo trade every single time because of the price. It was a high risk, high reward move. And I'm fine with moves like that because that shows I'm willing to risk this for this current team. And it didn't work out. Fine. Marvin Bagley, I don't think has those highs that Victor Oladipo could have brought the Heat. I just don't think he fits the system all that well. So I really don't see it. I know a lot of people were talking about it early on in the season. Is it another body that I would appreciate being on the team? Sure. But I think there's other things that the Heat can do.
We are almost too agreeable tonight.
We are.
And I wasn't
expecting
this because I was expecting high levels of sass from you.
Right.
But
well, you'll get them now.
Nice.
No, you'll get them now, right? Your boy.
Why is that, Michael?
Your boy was having a decent time on Twitter. You know who your boy is.
My boy always has a decent time on Twitter because my boy's a savage. Also, he needs to keep posting those selfies because your girl, every time I see that face,
tell the people who you're talking about in case they haven't seen.
They already know. Mr. Maurice Harkless is having a field day with Heat fans.
First of all, Maurice,
that is his government name.
Oh, government name. Okay, that's what we say. Government name, not legal or anything like that. You go straight to government. What happened on Twitter? Tell the people what happened on Twitter.
No, he's just having some fun. It's not the first or last time. He hit us with that LOL a few weeks ago too. Listen, I'm here for the trolling. He's hilarious. He knows what he's doing. Everyone hates it. I am living for it.
Because when did he send that LOL? What was that right after?
I believe it was after the Bucks took us out.
Oh, okay. So the Bucks swept the Miami Heat, and this dude decides to go LOL, right?
You have to hand it to the man. It was perfect timing. How can y'all not love this?
First of all, Maurice Harkless was not good enough to be on this team. I'm not going to blame
he was showing out in Sacktown then, so.
In where?
Sacktown.
Yeah, and how deep into the playoffs did they go?
Oh, it don't matter though. If you're going to compare him,
no.
If you're going to compare what he did on a team, an individual contribution.
Oh, okay. No, I get it. All right. So what he needs to do is he needs to be on bad teams because on bad teams he can do things. But when it comes to an actual team with a real system,
angelic face is all he needs to give.
You got traded.
The world.
You didn't work out. You were a bum in Miami. And
but why are y'all so salty?
Listen, I wasn't
Let
that
him
salty.
have his fun.
No. I wasn't that salty about Moe Harkless till this.
No, but I'm saying, why are y'all so salty that he's just poking fun? It's Twitter. This ain't serious. It's not real life. Get your head out of the computer and out of your phones.
What did the Heat do to him that he needed to put LOL?
He's just having a grand old time. It's trolling. You're going to sit here and tell me that Heat fans don't troll?
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
100%. We're fans.
So
we're fans.
Y'all are getting trolled and you don't like it.
Mo needs to shut up, right? He needs to get back to focusing on running behind the scorer's table, standing in the corner and doing nothing.
He'll do it again and again and again and again.
Exactly, on good teams, because on good teams, he's nothing more than like a 10th or 11th player. What do you mean I'm never going to win this? Literally all of Heat Twitter thinks that Moe Harkless was a bum. Actually, sorry. Let me take it back. That was probably
You want to be on Heat Twitter
side?
Time out. You can have Heat Twitter. You can have Heat Twitter.
Time out. I'm trying to take my statement back. Can I take my statement back? It's not that they think he was a bum.
Let's hear what you have to say.
It's not that Heat Twitter thinks that Moe Harkless was a bum. It's that Heat Twitter knows Moe Harkless was a bum. That dude did not deserve a minute of playing time on the Miami Heat. Getting rid of him was fantastic. And Bielitsa's one performance in Game 3 against the Milwaukee Bucks was better than anything Moe Harkless did on this team in his entire time with us.
What I don't understand is why y'all care so much. Let the man have his fun. Y'all are in your feelings over here over Moe Harkless. What does that say about y'all? That speaks volumes on you guys.
Well, the Heat are in his feelings too, because he cares enough to tweet at them.
The Heat aren't in his feelings. He's cracking jokes left and right.
He's cracking jokes left and right.
He's sitting there sipping his red wine and cracking jokes on Twitter, and I'm here for it. So Mo, continue on tweeting to your heart's desire.
He probably drinks like White Claws or something. He don't drink no red wine. He ain't that fancy. His contract can't afford that.
Shout out to the Prisoner Wine Company that I believe entered a partnership with Mr. Maurice, but it's okay. I think that's all we have time for tonight, folks, because the Suns are playing, and I think both Michael and I are anxious to see them get this W. So we appreciate y'all. We'll see you next week. Have anything to add, Michael?
I do not. Hit them with a nice ASMR outro.
No. Good night, y'all. Thanks for listening to Feel the Heat. Can't get enough of your hosts? Follow Allana at Allana Tachauer, Tachauer, and Michael at Michael, 5 RSN on Twitter and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe.